What's going on, everybody? It's Nick from Rightly Dividing the Word of Truth. I want to talk today about how YouTube can become an idol. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience. So I'm talking about me and me first. If it applies to anybody else, so be it. I don't have anybody else in mind when I'm saying this stuff, but if the shoe fits, feel free to wear it. Now, having said that, any good thing can become an idol. I think YouTube is an extremely good thing. I think YouTube is the greatest innovation of my lifetime. I don't say that lightly. I mean, you hear the expression, the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's YouTube. Now, why do I love it? Because it provides so much. If you want to be entertained, you can go to YouTube. If you want to learn, you can go to YouTube. If you need instruction, you can go to YouTube. If you want to disseminate information, you can go to YouTube. You can do so much on the platform. It's wonderful. And it's become such a platform that you could even make a living doing it. I mean, there's channels with millions of subscribers, and these people make substantial livings doing YouTube. So there's something for everybody. But having said that, when you get on the content creation side of it, there is this temptation to make it an idol in your life. Now, there's various reasons for this, along with creating content for a platform like YouTube, there is a push to pride. You want to be better than everybody else. You want to make the best videos that you could possibly make. And it becomes competition rather than let me just do the best that I can do. You want to be better than somebody else. You want to win, right? So that's one impulse. Vanity comes along with that. You care about being seen. You want to make a name for yourself. You want people to know who you are. But you don't want them to know the true you. You want them to know this curated version of you. So you play a role. Now, I'm not saying that's true of everybody, but there is an impulse to vanity. There is this impulse to want to be seen, which brings in something else, which is namely ego. It becomes about me, me, me. I'm the center of attention. I want people to see me. It doesn't really matter what you're providing them with. It just becomes about you and how beloved you are, what you get out of it. Now, I'm not immune from any of this stuff. I don't think for me it was really about pride or vanity per se. And I'll give you a reason as to why I think that is. I got into YouTube, and when I got into the live streaming community, this small sector of the Christian YouTubing community, I kind of got propped up as some Orthodox guy who you could go to for answers about Orthodox theology, or I was supposed to be some kind of Orthodox apologist. And I made it known very early on, I'm not even an Orthodox Christian yet. I'm not a member of the Orthodox Church. There's plenty about Orthodoxy I do not know. In fact, you could fill several libraries with books about all the stuff I don't know about Orthodoxy. So I was kind of able to be upfront about that. I didn't take myself as some kind of an expert and offer my opinion as some kind of an expert opinion. I'd let you know, go ask an Orthodox person, go read Orthodox material, so on and so forth. So I don't think the impulse to vanity is really what got me. Pride, I battle with pride like anyone else, probably more than most people. You might not think I'm a prideful person, but I am. I am, and it's something I struggle with. So definitely not immune from that. Ego, making it all about me, 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 a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But with that said, here's how YouTube started to become an idol for me and how I could tell it was becoming an idol for me. So I spent the better part of like a year and a half trying to think up ways to put content on YouTube. So when I started, it was to do a couple of response videos that I thought would help clear up confusion. And then I made more response videos. And I realized quickly that I don't want to be one of those channels where I'm just always constantly responding to the errors of others, right? I don't want to be that kind of content creator. There's plenty of channels out there that all they exist to do is criticize people. All they exist to do is point out the errors of people they disagree with. That's all good and well. I don't want that to be what defines me. So I kind of try to step away from that. And I made a bunch of videos about just things that I like, right? So in that sense, it kind of becomes, ego-ish. It's about me, me, me. What do I like? I don't care what you get out of the content. I'm making this video for me. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still kind of in that space. I make videos because I enjoy making videos. And if somebody likes it, amen. But if nobody likes it, well, at least I liked it, right? So there's a little bit of ego involved in that, but it's not really for me like, you know, me, look at me, it's all about me. I don't care about anybody else. No, I want to make stuff that you find helpful or entertaining or something that you want to go back to. And shout out to my boy Deshaun, because, he takes a lot of his live streams to go back and rewatch my old videos. I'm glad that he finds them helpful. And the fact that he would watch them on stream and talk about them with others, it's truly honoring. So thank you for that, brother. I appreciate it. But greed is something else that can come along with content creation. Now, for smaller channels that aren't monetized, it's really not an issue yet. But once you get monetized and you see, I can make a couple of bucks with ad revenue, well, you think, maybe I could pump out more videos and get more ad revenue. And then once you get into the live streaming, you start to get a couple of super chats and you think, well, what topics could I cover that are going to draw the most people so that I can make the most money? Now, for me, greed was never really an issue. I haven't made, if total I've made $300 the whole time I've been doing this, then, praise God for that $300. But it's not like I'm over here getting rich off of that. But I can see the impulse to greed being a thing that makes YouTube an idol in somebody's life. But here's what did it for me. Arthur from Apologia Center had suggested that I start recording haircuts and putting them online. And I thought it was a great idea. And he's actually not the first person to have suggested that. A client of mine did it, years ago. He said we should live stream the barbershop. There'd be an audience for that. And, we weren't interested at the time. I still don't really know that I am interested now. But so shout out to Joe for suggesting that years ago. But Arthur said, you should record your haircuts and put them online. And I was like, yeah, that would be interesting, because I didn't want to do it as a tutorial. There's a million of those out there, and better barbers than me, more entertaining people than me, people that make better videos than me. But I did think it would be cool just to record the haircuts and the conversations that I have with my clients. And I did that. And it was no different than it would have been. I was simply recording these haircuts and putting them on. And some people liked them. They didn't get the most views in the world, but that's all right. There were people who liked them. And I thought this is a great idea. But then this is what started to happen. I started to think about who could I record to make good content for YouTube? What client of mine can I have a good conversation with that I think would make a good video for YouTube? And then I think about, well, I have good conversations with this person, so I'll record that one and I'll try to steer the conversation this direction because it'll make for a good video. So I started to realize that it's no longer my client that I care about. It's no longer me simply preaching the goodness of Jesus because Jesus is actually good. It's I want to make a video that I'm going to put on YouTube that people are going to watch. So in a sense, vanity, I guess, did start to creep in. It became about appearances more than the substance. And thankfully, the Holy Spirit convicted me of this early on. Because, I just stopped doing it. I just stopped recording the videos because I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to have a bunch of manufactured conversations because it would make for good YouTube videos, right? So that was what really opened my eyes to certain things. I'm like, YouTube is becoming a bit much. The other thing was this. I spent a lot of time not only making videos, but doing the live streams. And I didn't see my kids as much. I didn't see my wife as much. I didn't spend as much time with them. And to me, it was like, for what? What am I missing time with my family for? If you go back and you watch the live streams I did, if it was a panel discussion, I barely talked, right? I didn't get super involved because I didn't like doing them. And then when it was me streaming solo, what quality stuff was I really talking about? I wasn't really saying too much of anything, unless it was in direct response to something that was going on. But a lot of the times I was just on there basically conversing with the people in the chat. And that's all well and good. Listen, I love everybody that tunes in. I'm amazed that they would want to tune in and converse with me and talk. But that's really what it was. A lot of the times I'm just watching the chat and hanging out with you guys. There was no need for me to be online. So I wasn't providing a service to the viewers. I wasn't doing anything that was edifying for me. But I was spending time away from my wife and kids. So I'm like, all right, this is a problem. YouTube is becoming an issue. And, let's not get started on my gear acquisition syndrome and the money I spent buying a bunch of stuff to make videos and all of that. I'm not even going to blame YouTube for that because it doesn't matter what it is. When I get into something, I go overboard with it. So YouTube wasn't an idol for that. But there was a cost associated with this, a hefty cost, and I paid it. I said all that to say this. On the content creation side, I could see that YouTube was becoming an idol because my life became about what would make a good video for YouTube. And the reality is I only got a handful of good videos, and I think the best videos are the ones I did early on before I started caring about what was happening with YouTube. So that's on the creator side of the spectrum. But there's also a consumer side of the spectrum. So me as a consumer of YouTube, what is it that I'm watching and why am I watching it? Right? Do I just want mindless entertainment? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I do. But do I want to watch channels that are constantly critical of others? Do I want to watch people who make a name off of obsessing over certain big personalities because they know it's going to get them views? Not really. That's not what I'm in this for. Do I want to watch stuff that I'm going to find helpful and educational and edifying? Yes, absolutely. Totally do. So for myself as somebody who likes to make YouTube videos, again, I make them because I like them. But I want other people to like them too. But I don't want to go to any lengths to make you like them. I don't want to sell my soul to the devil so that you watch my stuff. I don't want to compromise who I am. And I was able to see that I was kind of compromising who I was. Everything was fodder for another video. I don't want my life to be like that. So when I consume it, I want to consume the kind of stuff that I would like to create, right? I want to watch things where somebody's teaching the Bible. I want to watch things where people are constructively debating theology. I want to watch things that are entertaining because they're well produced, well thought out, well scripted, well whatever, right? If I'm watching tech stuff, I want to watch the tech reviewers that actually review the products and don't just give glowing recommendations because they got something for free, right? If I'm watching somebody who's talking about books, I want to see some critical interaction with the book in question. Back in the day, you see a lot of books behind me. I got a lot of these for free from publishers. And the reason that I got a lot of these for free from publishers was because I provided what I thought, at least, and many other people told me, were helpful reviews of the works in question. See, I didn't just get a book, write some glorified blurb, call it a review, and then ask for the next book. No, I'd get a book, I'd sit on it for a while, I'd read it, I'd mark it up, I'd chew on it, I'd interact with it, and then I'd write a review and I'd let people know, here's what I found helpful, here's what I thought they got wrong, and here's whether or not I think it'd be useful for the audience of my blog. And that, that got me a lot of favor with a lot of publishers. There were a couple who cut me off because they thought maybe I was a little too harsh on some of their authors, but, that's the world we live in. I say all that to say this, that I want to get back to doing stuff like that with my channel. I don't want to just pump out videos because it's going to get views. And I mean, come on, let's be honest, guys. You go to my page, you look at my numbers. I'm not exactly drowning in views on these videos. But I do want to pump out stuff that will get views because it's helpful. Because if I'm interacting with somebody else, I'm doing it critically. I'm doing it in a way that's going to bring more light than heat. And I'm doing it in a way that others will find some use of it. Right? And I also want to make videos that I just like to watch and go back and check out. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. If you enjoyed this video, and I hope you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. God bless.